Hello guys, welcome back to Pause and welcome to another spotlight looking at Planet Zoo. So this one today is looking specifically at the game features that have been released and announced so far. So you haven't seen the other videos here on the channel, do check those out first. We do look at the screenshots and the trailer that have been released so far and talk about the general game, and then we've also had a look at all the animals that have been announced in a second video. So today, like I say, we're going to go through a few general game features that have been either spoke about or announced or released through either a press article, the official channels, or just maybe some kind of really strong rumours, but we're going to talk about all that in this video. So first of all, we're going to talk about landscaping and construction. So this is going to follow a very similar approach to that of Planet Coaster, using the powerful piece-by-piece construction tools, which we have all got used to over the last couple of years. Players will be able to resize, sculpt and furnish each enclosure to their taste, gouging out water holes, adjusting barrier heights and materials, which include one-way glass walls for those intimate moments with beasts, and adjusting hillsides with biome-specific vegetation. So that sounds again very similar to Planet Coaster, that depending which biome you are in will depend which sort of terrain paint you can use. However, one difference with this seems to be the real-time sculpturing of the land. So it seems like Frontier really thought about the animation of the animals, given that the terrain is going to be fully customizable. And they have mentioned that they have been working to ensure that, for example, a tiger's leg doesn't waggle in midair when it's walking up a slope. So they have been really working hard to ensure the realism. One thing that some of the guys who have seen the demo have mentioned that different options for the building will include barriers, habitats, nature, zoo facilities and construction. And also it has been said that you are able to raise the level of the terrain with animals still there, as you can see in real time how the animals will adapt to the new elevation, so that's quite good. So currently now, let's talk about themes. There's only been 2 official themes that have been confirmed. British Classic, which is your kind of like stately home and your general British theme, and then African, which is a bit more like Animal Kingdom, Islands of Adventure, that kind of style, Busch Gardens, a bit Savannah, which will be great if you're doing a kind of safari park or something like that. So in terms of the animal enclosures themselves, we've seen various different methods in the screenshots and also spoken about in some of the press reports. The main differences here, we have got actual physical barriers like a glass or a chain link fence or wall or something like that. We've also seen the use of natural barriers, so this is where you use the terrain itself to stop the animals either escaping or obviously the guest getting to the animals. And then there's other things that we haven't seen specifically, but we have heard mentioned, like glass to keep the spiders contained. So we're probably talking about tanks and that kind of thing here for reptiles and potentially aquatic, but that hasn't been announced yet. But we definitely know there's going to be glass exhibits for small animals. So already off the bat we know there's going to be different types, so you should be able to sort of design your zoo the best way you want to, really. So in terms of some of the items that are going to be added, this is just a small list of a few things that have been mentioned or seen in trailers. So obviously flexicolour items are going to be in this game, very similar to how it's introduced in Planet Coaster. There has been mentions of 2D and 3D backgrounds which you can add to glass exhibits for small critters, so back into the spiders you can add little backgrounds to those. There's going to be a plethora of plants and trees, many fences and barriers, including the full glass walls which we have seen in some of the screenshots, and it definitely looks like to me that the fencing tool has been upgraded to maybe the spline based system, a bit like what we've seen in Jurassic Park Evolution. Now this hasn't been announced or seen or anything like that. I'm purely speculating from how neat they are in the screenshots, so only time will tell on that one. Other things that have been mentioned in terms of items, we've got animal toys and enrichment items. For example, there is a football that you can see in the elephant enclosure, and there is a scratching pole in the lion's enclosure. So many different toys and enrichment items are going to be added. Many decorative items, so we can see again in the trailer and the various screenshots, we've got archways and different bits of theming in terms of buildings and all that kind of stuff. Again, at the moment we've only got those 2 themes, but there's many decorative items that are going to be added into the game. One thing which is quite interesting to see how they implement this one is one-way mirrors, so that animals can approach the visitors without being frightened. So obviously the guests will see into the enclosure from one side, but it'll be a mirror on the other side, so the animals can't see the guests. That'll be interesting to see. Sprinklers have been mentioned or seen, probably implemented the same way as in Planet Coaster. And then feeding bowls, which we've seen in the screenshot. So again, that's going to be some kind of feature to add the food aspect. Whether this is something like in Jurassic World, you have to specifically tell somebody to go and fill up, or it's going to be connected to some kind of underground system, or the staff just fill it up themselves. That obviously, that kind of stuff we still don't really know just yet. So in terms of rides, attractions, moving aspects, the only thing we know so far is that there is going to be a train and train station, taking that purely from the screenshots. So at least we know they're thinking about the idea of transport rides. Whether that means we're going to get anything more than that down the line, only time will tell. I think personally, yes, I could see different transport rides, a few smaller attractions, maybe some kind of boat ride as well, I think would work really well. And I'm sure there's going to be some kind of safari type system that's built into this. So next up, we're going to talk about the weather system. So this is something which has been teased in the Wolf screenshot, and then it has been mentioned by one of the press who actually did play the game in a sort of an early look. So what I'll do, I'm just going to read out the quote from Eurogamer. It gives you quite a lot of information. So Planet Zoo has its own weather system with the ability for snow and rain to be partially or completely occluded under structures such as trees or caves. In the midst of a snowstorm, the outdoor areas become cold, but the cave remained warm, thus prompting the animals to move inside to seek out the warmest temperatures and fulfill their needs. Managing the temperature requirements apparently becomes even more difficult should your zoo be in a challenging location such as the Arctic. So that is really interesting, that the game and the AI of the animals are going to know the weather, and this really makes it interesting to know if this is going to include man-made caves, so using the terrain system. Or is this only going to work if you have a ready-made cave that you plonk down in an enclosure? So it definitely sounds very interesting. I love the fact that weather is finally being added. I assume it's going to be added in a way similar to Jurassic World, but again, we'll have to see how we get on with it. But so far, very exciting news. There's going to be decent weather in this game. Okay, let's move very quickly on to talk about the campaign. So they have mentioned, as always with these kind of sandbox and tycoon games, there's always a campaign mode. What it sounds like to me, from the gist of what I've seen so far, is it's going to be a mixture between the Planet Coaster campaign and the Jurassic World Evolution campaign. It definitely seems it's going to be it's going to have a narrative and a story leading you through. The early information we've got is that you're going to play as a young zookeeper that's working your way to the top. We've had a few quotes from people from Frontier that say they really wanted to take the scenarios that Planet Coaster had with the kind of goal structure, but to create a narrative that runs through the game, so we can actually pick the player up and guide them through the entire scenario experience. Like I said, that's where the kind of Jurassic World comes in. Anyone who hasn't played Jurassic World Evolution, the campaign for that, you kind of have these different characters that are literally talking you through, giving you advice and giving you different quests and missions and stuff. So I think that's the approach they're probably going to take with this one. So obviously money is going to be a big issue during the campaign. You have to be very money conscious. So they've said that they're going to build in the kind of tutorial into the early campaign mode, so that'll help most novices through, and that'll hopefully give them a step-by-step management of how to control the zoo. However, they have said we must bear in mind that there are different levels of difficulty as you move from one zoo to another, as it happened with the islands of Jurassic World Evolution. So they're taking all the best aspects from their previous games and sticking it all into this. Now, obviously, if you're not really into it for a campaign game, there will be a full sandbox mode, as with like Planet Coaster and stuff like that. Planet Zoo's powerful piece-by-piece construction tool lets you effortlessly make your zoo unique. Let your imagination run wild as you dig lakes and rivers, raise hills and mountains, crave paths and caves, and build stunning zoos with a choice of unique themes and hundreds of building components. So yeah, there's going to be a full sandbox mode, as we anticipated. As with Planet Coaster, you'll be able to upload your blueprints to Steam and then obviously import other people's into your zoos. There has been a few rumblings I've seen around mentioning the terrain now may come as part of blueprints, which would be a great step forward, and something I think needs to happen, because terrain is a massive part of this game and the terrain tools are going to be huge when you're making these zoos and these enclosures and these animals. So if that isn't able to be saved and added into your blueprint, it's a bit pointless, as most of this is going to be natural barriers. So I really hope they have figured out how to do that in terms of terrain, and it'll make the blueprints a lot more interesting. So yeah, we'll keep a pin in that one and come back to that when we get a bit more information. Okay, lastly, now we're going to just talk a few little bits and pieces about the animals. Most of the stuff we covered in the last episode of which animals are going to be in the game and have been announced so far. Here is just a few little bits about the actual animal behaviour and the specifics around the animals. So, for example, the animals are not going to have genitals, and it doesn't seem like they're going to have natural mating behaviours. Sounds, they've had... Then this is something which I'm more than confident about, because Frontier are always really good at sounds. They have got a whole sort of area and team that are making an extensive digital library of real animal sounds that are using in the game. So there's going to be the sound. I think it will be very, very well done. They've said they're going to create like footsteps and other details. So I really do think they're going to nail the sounds, as they always do. They have mentioned that there is going to be a kind of staff research type situation for animals, which I think seems like it's going to help you over the time with your management of the animals and the species, and make sure everyone's happy. All the animals are going to have different traits which are directly inherited from parents, so therefore there will be consequences of inbreeding. So it's going to have to be careful of that in this game to make sure you're not just having the same family going at it all the time, as the offspring will inherit imperfections or diseases if you do just inbreed. There is going to be a system in the game where you can release new generations of animals back into the wild, so there's obviously going to be a conservation aspect to this, which I think is a really good idea. So that's something we'll obviously look into once we've got a bit more information. And there will be an animal life cycle built into this, from following the full cycle from birth to death. So that will be a part of the game. You have to think about it. Animals will die eventually, so make sure they're happy while they're alive. Big bold statement, this one. No two animals in Planet Zoo will look the same, even within the same species. So I don't know how they're going to crack this one personally, but they are saying that each individual will have subtle differences in their appearance and personality that has been directly inherited from their parents. So even down to the way their stripes are patterned, what shade of brown the fur is, their kind of nature, are they playful, are they dangerous? All these kind of traits will make each animal unique and give them a sense of authority as they crawl around on the screen. So that's a quote taken from PC Games. So that's interesting. I don't know how they're going to go about that, but well, we'll see. They're also saying different animals will have their own individual needs and personalities and wants. So just because one rhino is happy sat in the mud doesn't mean your new rhino that you've just been born is going to be the same laid back. So it feels like you're going to always be on your toes, making sure everybody's happy. And a big one for me, if you're planning to make a big savannah scene, different types of animals can cohabitate together. So that's a big one for me, because I'm really liking the idea of a safari style park. So yeah, different animal types will be able to live in the same enclosures together. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be limits to that. I don't think you'll be putting penguins and lions together, but I'm sure you can put a few different savanna types or maybe some grazing animals together. So that'll be really nice, and that's a really good option. So one last bit on animals. It has been announced, well, has been revealed that if an animal escapes, they will not be able to eat the tourists. The public will be unhappy that they are sort of being threatened by a animal, but they will not come to harm. They've got a very family-focused, educational focus, which means you cannot kill the guests. But guests will just get unhappy and will leave. So it's not going to be as dramatic as Jurassic World Evolution, but there's still going to be some risk to that, as obviously your zoo's rating and everything will go down, and your guests will just simply leave. Right, I think that's enough for today, folks. As we get a bit more information on features and all that kind of stuff, we'll do some more videos. Still a few bits we need to talk about. We've not really spoke about staff or anything like that yet, research and all that kind of stuff. So there's still a few little topics we need to cover, and we'll do that in another video. But for now, guys, thank you ever so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Stay up to date with all of our content, as we're going to be posting a lot of Planet Zoo up until the launch. Fancy a chat, head over to Twitter or Discord. Links are down below. Want to help us out, you can do that by going to our Patreon page. But for now, guys, thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Cheers, bye.